And we're looking forward to our next Fellows reading. And with that, Leila Chatti.
All right, let me get my timer also. Okay, I'm really excited to be here. I'm a little sleepy. If you see me at times, I'm likely just having woken up from a nap. So that's what's happened right now, but I'm very excited to read for you all. Thank you for having me here. I'm going to read from my book, Deluge, which came out last year. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Wow. It's nice being in person. This is nice. And there's not too much you need to know. It's a book about a period of illness that began in my early 20s. And this first poem begins with an epigraph when Mary is giving birth to Jesus in the Quran. She says, "Oh, I wish I had died before this and was in oblivion, forgotten. Confession. Truth be told, I like Mary a little better when I imagine her like this, crouched and cursing, a boy god pushing on her cervix. I like remembering she had a cervix, her body ordinary and so like mine. Girl sweat lacing rivulets like veins in the sand, her small hands on her knees, not doves, but hands, gripping, a palm pressed to her spine, fronds whispering like voyeurs overhead. Oh, Mary, like a god, I too take pleasure in knowing you are not all holy that ache could undo you like a knot. And suffering, I admire this girl who cared for a moment not about God or his plans, but her own distinct life. This fiercer Mary who'd disappear if it saved her, who'd howl to hell with salvation if it meant this pain. The blessed adolescent who squatted indignant in a desert, bearing his child like a secret she never wanted to hear. Mary speaks. And what could I say when he entered? Rude as a dream, bare flame of a man with wings and demands not his own. I'd been raised a good girl, to house my tongue in my mouth, to be hospitable towards strangers, suspicious of no one. Perhaps I'd have been better off to be wary, but I'd been waiting so long to hear God speak, I hadn't thought to think of what he might tell me. Sarcoma. When the doctor says the word sarcoma, I consider how it might be a nice name for a daughter, that good feminine A, the way parents name their children for all sorts of inappropriate things. Apples, for instance, or the place where the baby was conceived. And I trace my fingers over the barrow of my belly as he speaks, flesh distended beneath the blue tissue I wear for a dress, an ideal grief frock, throwaway. And he says something about life expectancy, but of course I expect my life. So plain I thought nothing would ever take it. And while he explains, I cut my palms around my center, as if comforting a child, or covering her ears. Litany while reading scripture in the gynecologic oncology waiting room. And God said, let there be blood. And God said, flood. And God said, good is a woman with fruit in her womb and not in her hand. And God said, sin. And God did not say, forgive. And God said, I will make a stormy wind. And God said, sun, a breath stirring. And God said, highly favored. And God said, condemned. And God said, I will blot out man whom I have created, for I am sorry that I have made them. And God said, listen, and sank a boy in her like a stone. Mother, you had asked me, 13, what I wanted to be one day, I wouldn't have said it. I wanted, for a long time, to be anything but myself, knew that a soon-to-be woman was the second worst thing in the world after a woman, full stop, and I was heading there fast. I could see it, my breasts rudely nudging into view, their snug caps like the knit caps of infants, rosy-colored as a tongue. And how terrifying, the thought of a mouth there rooting in what could be drawn from me that I didn't need. What else skulked in me unseen, stirring in secret vats with milk yet untapped and blood, the strange new wellspring? I was just beginning to understand the possibilities. My body's elusive, independent workings, machineries chugging away in dark chambers, not just left to, but simply their own devices, unknowable and sovereign. What I wanted always to be, in control. And I knew this was impossible, just as I knew, even then, that to be a mother was to be the only permissible form of a woman, the begrudging exception to the rule of our worthlessness. So if you asked me again, 23, I'd tell you the worst thing you could be is not a woman, but barren, the industry shut down, and the parts missing, malformed. And I'd tell you the shame of it, the feminine failure, its ache a reminder. At the center, the tumor, ballooning, like hope. Angel. After a month of asking, suddenly a voice. It says you deserve that which has happened to you. It says, I see what you do with your long, terrene hands. Maundering through the banalities of my life, it follows, speaking as if from a frosty bag of peas in the freezer aisle, speaking while I am on my knees, scrubbing the bathroom floor, trying to love a man. Its speech is disquieting company, but company nonetheless. A TV left on and turned low. It desperately wants my attention, but is polite, which is its defining weakness. Sometimes I catch it stirring out of the corner of my eye, a glint at the end of my cat's whiskers, a spangle on the ceiling of indiscernible source. More often, though, it looks like me, only a little off, like my reflection in the pregnant belly of a spoon. In fact, when I speak to it, I use my own name. I'm not sure if it minds. It repeats instead its refrain. It says, God has plans for you. It says, I didn't say they were good. Checking our time. Okay. Hymen. Second blood. I never knew you. After the first, scoured the bed for your blazoned blot and came up empty. Perhaps I was born without you. A box with no prize inside, a sundae with no cherry on top. God of good girls, God of matrimony, mother's state, which I consider a distant country with a discordant tongue, did you speak with God and conclude I hadn't use for you? Once I was small as your kin, so small and for such a long time. Longer than I've lived, I fit inside my mother when she fit inside her mother, and so on and so forth, and further, a nest of matrons, me's and a beam, in which to be female is to be something like infinity. And was it determined then what kind of woman I would be? It seems I've always been frightened, little veil, of wedlock's lock, clicking shut. the heritable procession of women whispering in the aisle of my pulse, don't do, don't do, don't. And I haven't done. This, the Graveman, the grave I've dug with the spade of pleasure. But wanting seal of want, I did want it, did choose to commit my life's greatest transgression with a benevolent accomplice, and so in the herebefore you could say I am among the spared. What a mess this messlessness of you could have been in any number of lives my size, billowing specters of dresses on a line of possibility, lives in which I am the bridesmaid and you, maidenhead, the bride given away, where I am the acquired property and you the red ribbon severed in the threshold, I the purse and you the coin tendered. Perhaps no one ever told you, precious emblem of innocence, simulacrum for honor, that some believe you the most important part of me, vital, like a heart a man gets the thrill of bursting where he can see it, that blood is owed to him. And that's the heart of it, isn't it? Of a woman, you, the only blood worth anything. Okay, sorry, I know these are downers. Okay, this poem's called Testimony. There is a God, and there is no God but him. He has many names and answers to none. On the day of judgment, I will be called by my name and by the name of my Father. My name, the dark I was forged in, dark which rehearses its return while I sleep. Indeed, one day I will return to God as it is to him that I belong. Indeed, this was part of the message, and the message was received. I do not speak for God, and he does not speak to me. This an arrangement, estrangement. When asked my religion, I answer, surrender. I pray with my head to the floor, with my hands where he can see them, with both eyes closed. All this for paradise, which lies at the feet of mothers. Beneath my feet, the temporal earth, which darkens where I stand. And I think, just check this. Okay, just a couple more. Prayer. Until the blood surged, I knew it only as song, your word, a piteousness of doves pouring from my throat, your word, an asp whispering through shadow to more shadow. It was easy. I learned early how to beg and ask nothing. I thought pleading was the point. I fell diurnal like a son to my knees. I prostrated to distance myself from smoke. I yearned for your attention. I did not comprehend what was said of those who evoked your anger or of those who are astray. Each time I intoned, so be it. Okay. Questions directed toward the idea of Mary. Was it the voice you feared, or its shadow? Did you long for his touch, or was suffering enough for you to know he was there? Do you resent me, my juvenile hungers? Do you wish for me the freedom of a vast, barren plain? What would you have done with your body if your body obliged? Did it please you, your sun risen at the end, like a question? Do you pity the angels, their ancillary lives? Did your worship falter once you were sure you were good? How long did you live before yielding to your inevitable shame? And how long before you realized? Did you realize? Shame was a blade you turned against yourself. And once you knew it, you could use it. And I'm going to finish with this poem, Exegesis. Thank you so much for listening. Exegesis. I bled. God didn't want to hear about it. He said unclean, and so it was. He said it is harm, and so it was. Want to hear about it? He said unclean. Once a woman wanted, so he did her harm. And so it was first conceived, a woman suffering because a woman wanted. So he said, cursed. And then he said, blessed. The woman chose to suffer, conceived a God, though she never knew a man. And God knows best. If he calls a curse a blessing, then so it is. And he said she was clean. She never knew a man. I've known men, but never a God that bled and lived. But I did. Thank you.
Wow, that was so lovely. I'm so excited to have read, what's the future tense? I will be excited to have had read with CJ and Leila. I like grammar. How are we doing? Word. All right, cool, we're alive. I'm going to read, I think, 2 poems from my book, Pecking Order. And I was having a conversation earlier today about being not only in community, but being in conversation with the writers that we are kind of around. And I was worried that wasn't going to happen, but I think it's happening. So the first poem I'm going to read is called Motherhood. And don't cough or blink, because it's very short, and you will miss it. Motherhood is like being pecked to death by my favorite birds, made from my body, torn by beaks sharpened on the woman I was when I slept more. So, fun facts about me: I don't like children. I have twins, because the universe has a sense of humor above all else. This is called I Wish I Was More Mothers, after Brenda Shaughnessy. One to take the picture, another to be in it, one more still to apply the filter and type #NoFilter, one to pin the things on Pinterest, one to collect the pine cones and organize the glitter and buy the 12 by 12 crafting paper, one to schedule the photo shoot and to slick each child's hair, to buy matching outfits and iron each one to a stiff perfection, one to say fuck it and let the horde of them go to school in whatever they can find on the floor, one to send out holiday cards, to handwrite the addresses, to buy the personalized stamps and send them well before the season passes, one to match each small sock to its lonely mate and not only wash, but fold and even put away the laundry, one to pay the wash and fold service, one to just buy new clothes, one to make dinner, to try the new recipes from a curated list of mommy blogs, one to mommy blog, to package each day into less than 1,000 words and to moral the other moms might be shamed into pretending to believe, one to be condescending, one to become smaller, one to breastfeed in public, areola casually displayed as we, the clucking and laughing mothers, eat guacamole at a local organic eatery, one to breastfeed in the bathroom with the wafting aroma of urine to remind me of our place, one to breastfeed at home between the walls and jags of crying, one to cry nonstop for years in private and in public, to look unblinking at the other mother's ironed pants and perfect eye makeup, one to brunch, one to develop an unhealthy reliance on alcohol or brownies or pills or another woman whose sadness makes her me, one to have the affair, one to repent, another to schedule the marriage counseling, to write the appointments on the large dry erase calendar, one to bump into it in the night, wipe it blank with an errant shoulder, one to walk the dogs, feed the fish, change the litter box, one to say, no, the house is too small for even one more living thing, one to fall out of love and leave, one to fall out of love and stay, one to stay in love and leave anyway, one to listen to all of the saddest songs and stay listening, one to fuck like childless women do, with abandon and the blade of consequence inches above the impending orgasm, one to fuck like a mother, as if the worst has already happened, as if the best has already happened, as if today, now, the orgasm makes the laundry doable, one to fuck like a mother who has forgotten her children, moaning too loud, mouth too open, walls too thin, thinking, they're gonna learn somehow. One to make the lunches, to tell the nanny to make the lunches, to say find your own lunch, one to stay home, to sweep, to clean, to know where each toy is likely hiding, to think, what am I giving up to be here? One to go out into the market, to earn, to wonder where the children are in this exact moment as the projector fails or the manager scolds or the shirt's seams face outward like a neon sign announcing what we really are, to think, what am I giving up to be here? One to kiss the babies, to miracle small scrapes into laughter, one to laugh, one to say to the rest of us, we're doing okay. We're doing what needs to be done. One to call our mothers and forgive or accuse, and one to answer when the call comes for us. It's hard. And you're not supposed to talk about how hard it is. And it's really hard. Also, my kids are like 9 now. Well, I have 2 9-year-olds and an 8-year-old because I make bad life choices. And they've been texting me like, what are you doing? Your camp sounds fun. Which is like a weird thing because they're like self-aware, they're like Skynet now. So I'm gonna read, I think, 2, maybe 3, we'll see how time goes, poems from my next book called Fast Tale, and I just want to give a blanket content warning. I'm going to talk about sexual assault, so do what you need to do to best take care of yourself. Self-portrait as the definition of amnesia. Noun, a partial or total loss. I'm going to interrupt. So it's really, I have a thing in here that says Greek. I'm going to mispronounce it, and I feel like I'm talking directly to you. I'm sorry. I should have consulted you before I read this out loud, but I didn't, and so we're going to pretend I'm pronouncing it correctly. Self-portrait as the definition of amnesia. Noun, a partial or total loss of memory. Origin of the word, Greek, a, without, nij, memory. Noun, the forgetting of things and places and people. Noun, amnesiac. Noun, possum. Noun, a curtain I draw around my own hospice bed. Adjective, soft. Adjective, blurry. Adjective, manageable. Verb, to erase from memory. To not recall. Verb, to wake up and go to work without crying. Adjective, safely, softly, possibly. Use it in a sentence. Once, at a party, a boy I knew and no one stopped him. The first time then it was morning. Then it was 2 years later. Then, and now I can't. Noun shield. Noun door, closed. Noun the body that can't dance anymore. Antonym, I can't remember ever being happier than I am right now. Use it in a question. Were you there when? Did you see? Do you remember the hands that? Why should I? So I'm thinking a lot about memory as a survival tool, and the way that we rewrite our narrative, because sometimes you just got to get through the day. And so omission is a very useful tool for us to have. And with that in mind, I think I have time. That's exciting. I'm going to read one really long poem, so now's the time to cough or sneeze or whatever, because you have more than enough time. Called Tell the Truths. And I make some associative leaps, so if you're how is that connected? It's okay. I also am asking those questions. Amnesia, dissociative. Tear out the page or burn the book. Boys, released May 1987. During the song, a male voice insists, "Summertime love on the beach tonight." I always thought that he said, "Summertime love, I'm the beast tonight." Caution signs display what should be avoided: pedestrians, radioactive material, live electrical wires, or stick figures suffering the consequences of their ignorance, tripping, falling, slipping, or their bodies on the precipice of danger at the edge of a body of water which appears shallow but will swallow them whole. Don't. Emergencies are sudden, unexpected, require an immediate response: bullet wound, senior year, airplane crashes. Failure to respond quickly, appropriately, can lead to disaster, blood loss, paralysis, death. Google told me where he lives. I know he's getting a divorce. I know he has 2 children, a girl and a boy. I know where he works. He teaches high school. Girls as old now as I was then. Imagine if I had told. Imagine if I had someone to tell. Imagine if I showed up at his classroom door and finally said something. I'm joking, I'm just joking. I'm always just joking. Knock, knock. Don't answer that. Logic dictates that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Spock said that right before he died, before Kirk watched him die. Morning always comes, faithful dog or cat dragging the dead thing into the light, the gift of broken body. Look at what I can kill, a trophy where the light catches the damp marrow or the pooling liquids. Nicole. My grandmother plucked that name from a soap opera and gave it to me. I don't wonder if in his version he said it and I obeyed. I know his version. Narration is not just who tells the story, but how. Say it once with a laugh. Let it echo down the hallway, off the lockers. Watch it splinter into histories. Omission isn't lying. A party, a girl, a no. Those are details. Too many weigh a story down. Plot is the patch of ground where a thing can be buried, or it's a plan, usually harmful, or it's a graph showing how 2 things are related, or it's the arrangement of events by an author. Question: was there a sign I didn't see or ignored? Redacted, all of it. Spock, later resurrected, said, "Eliminate the impossible. Whatever remains, no matter how improbable, must be the truth. Truth or dare." How did you know what kind of girl they already thought I was? Under my breath, the surface, the stars, him, water. Version 1, I said yes. Version 2, I always said yes. Version 3, I didn't say no. Version 4, I never say no. Version 5, I heard that sometimes people ask, "Who's there?" Don't answer that either. The xiphoid process, small and bony at the inferior of the sternum. Administer CPR incorrectly and it can break off, puncture the diaphragm or the liver. You know how it is. You can't save everyone, sometimes not even yourself. 0 is a loser, or it's taken aim, or it's a settling of accounts, or it's nothing really. Forget I said anything at all. I'm going to read one last poem, and I want to thank you again for being here. I mean, to quote Jay-Z, like, you could be anywhere in the world, and you were here with me, so that's exciting. I'm going to do something I wasn't planning. I'm going to read something terrifying, because I've never read it out loud, and it's my one pandemic poem, because I didn't write for the last year and a half, because that's how quarantine was for me. And it's called Velvet Roped, after Ada Limon, the line, "I'm asking you to touch me." The old people, probably by now the dead people, watched Della Reese on Touched by an Angel because we all want an idea of what's coming next. See, I knew Della from "Pussy so good, if you threw it up in the air, it would turn into sunshine." Free advice? That's the kind of pussy you don't want to touch with a 10-foot pole. Or maybe you do, it's been a long year, a long quarantine, a long time since I fell asleep fast. Everything has been so touch and go. By everything, I mean survival. So if Della could put you in touch with someone who sparks your joy, and be alive, and say amen. What I meant by my bad advice is I'd be a soft touch. I was warning you, but I'm touching my own nerve here. A year inside is long enough to lose touch with everyone who doesn't live in my house. For a year, the only people I've touched are my children. I mean, don't worry, I talk to adults. I touch bases with their teachers and their friends' parents. We make play dates, outside, in parks. We forego touch football and tags for hikes and sanitized swings. Lately, I feel like what my mama would call touched. I mean, I'm okay. She'd say it touched, as she avoided eye contact, touching up her makeup in the mirror. I'm okay, though, I'm okay, I'd say, if she were here. If she were here, she'd say my dirty mirror and cluttered counter make it look like no woman lives here, and she's right. This year, my house needed a woman's touch, a flower in a vase, a new painting on the wall. The kids draw me pictures, no more fantastic made-up animals. I'm in all the drawings, see? Even quarantine has a silver lining. I'm touched that they noticed I'm here now for family game night and family movie night and family walks. I was a touch sad last year when the world was touching public surfaces all willy-nilly, and the public surface I touched the most was my desk at my job. Now my job is my desk in my bedroom, and the kids burst in and say, "He hit me," say, "I barely touched him," say, "Here, I drew this for you." And I sit muted in meetings until it's my turn. Then I say, "Well, I wanted to touch on this other boring subject. Is it normal for a healthy body to always be so sore to the touch? A body shouldn't sit and stare for this long. If I drank, I would drink, but I don't touch the stuff. Instead, I watch Netflix and order things with just the touch of a button, a touch on a touch screen, and too tired to even touch myself, I fall asleep, slow. Pretend that Della won't let nothing and nobody touch even a hair on my head. Though, I wouldn't mind a touch of sunlight on my face from time to time." Thank you so much for listening.